Okay, welcome back folks to part 4 of the Elenco AM FM radio build. This time we're going to start getting into section 5. We're going to do the AM mixer, AM oscillator, AM antenna, and actually we're going to finish off the AM radio side completely. So this video might be a little bit longer than normal, but we strive to get ahead. So yeah, let's get into this. Now, one of the things they ask you to do is determine if you have a 3-wire or 4-wire coil. It doesn't seem to make much difference except for with the 4-wire coil, which I particularly have here, that you want to twist a couple of the wires together. So they want the black and red wire twisted together, that's right, yeah. And then from there we mount up the antenna itself, mount up the tuning capacitor, and proceed with the rest of the assembly. So, okay, we're going to get started on that, and I'll speed through that unless something interesting comes up as usual, and then we'll stop to discuss it. All right, let's get started. Now, I should mention that these wires are pretty delicate, so when you go to twist them together or do anything with them, be very, very careful, very, very delicate with them. If not, you have to, like they say, they suggest that you burn off some insulation using a soldering iron. If you're going to do that, I would do that on a piece of hardwood if you have it. It'll burn a little bit like wood burning, but it won't go up in flames or anything like that. But don't do it on your bench or something directly. That'll just it'll just ruin your bench. Not that they don't get ruined anyway. Okay, we're all finished the construction, and I'm about ready to do the static measurements here. I have, as requested, I have test point 6 shorted out to a collector of Q7. That's really tight in there. Let me reseat that this way so that I can be sure things aren't shorting out where they shouldn't be shorting out. Okay, that looks good. And that'll prevent Q7 from oscillating. And we got our meter ready here, and we've got to turn it on. We've got the power supply attached. Power supply is on, and the DC voltage at test point 7 should read about 1.6 volts. So let's turn on the power here. Test point 7. Let's throw this one here. Measure that to ground, which is test point 15. Oh, would help to have the meter turned on. So I got 1.5 volts. With the voltage here, circuit different board of 0.5 volts. Okay, so no, we're okay. We're right in the range. All right, perfect. So now on to the dynamic measurements. We'll get all set up for those and be right back. So here we are, we're ready to begin our dynamic measurements. We have our scope set up on collector of Q7 as required, and you can see the traces up there. Now, what we're supposed to see is a low level, well, it's not that low a level, it's about 0.8 volts peak to peak, and it's supposed to change as we turn the dial, and indeed that's what we see. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see what's next. So the final AM alignments are what's next. So let me set up for all of that and we'll be right back. So for this section we're going to need to assemble the magic wand. So I've got to go over to another area and put these in and use my hot air gun to do the heat shrinking. And I'll be back after that. Alright, I got my little magic wand all making magic now. And I'm gonna hook up some power to this. Oh, but before I do, I want to show you in this case, for this next test here, the AM alignment with test equipment, and particularly the intermediate frequency alignment, we have to short Q7 to test 0.6, but rather than have that big ugly thing that I had on there before, I've just gone ahead and put a little jumper on the back here, which I can cut off later. Okay, let's get the power hooked up here. And as requested, we've got RF generator is set up for 455 kilohertz with modulation of 400 hertz at 80%, and our minimum voltage out, which is 2 millivolts peak to peak. And we've set the oscilloscope, got it on AC input, IZ. We've got 0.1 volts per division up there. Okay, so now we just need to turn everything on and increase the amplitude of the generator until the oscilloscope shows 400 hertz sine wave, 5 divisions, or 0.5 volts peak to peak. Alright, let's see how that works out for us. Oh, that's way more. 800. Alright, I'm going to stick an attenuator in there because I'm already down at as low as I can get this thing to go. So I'll put a 10 dB attenuator in there. That'll bring us down to 4.6 millivolts peak to peak. Okay, so there we are. We got to work on that amplitude there. We're about 500 millivolts there, but I don't like that signal. So something different with this than what they're expecting. I certainly can't do any bandwidth measurements with a frequency that looks like that. That signal has got too many different frequencies in there. This has got to be pretty close to a good sine wave for the bandwidth measurements to mean anything. It was looking a little bit better before when I had a little bit more amplitude in there, so let's start turning it up a bit until we get a nice looking sine wave. Okay, we're up around about 16 millivolts going in, so we can take that attenuator out again. Okay, it looks like the automatic gain control has taken over here. We could probably bring that down a bit. Yeah, if we bring that down just underneath 1.5 volts there, then our 3 dB point will be at 1 volt. So I know this is 3 times higher than what they want, but at least this is a proper sine wave, and filters in the IF system are going to be able to deal with it a little bit better, and we'll get a more meaningful bandwidth. So let's see here. Now they want us to tweak the transformers here for peak. Now I should be pretty close to peak because I did it in the last episode. I tweaked them pretty good. So let's see. We'll start off with this one here. Yeah, I thought we would be pretty much at peak anyway. And this one, we're at peak. Yeah, same here. So now we just have to change the frequency. Let's lower the frequency now until we get down to 1 volt. There. So yeah, 451.6 kilohertz. Yeah, we'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll go up. Go 462.7. And the difference there, oh, that's 11 kilohertz. We try that again, not driving it so hard. I think maybe what's happening is the automatic gain control is getting involved. So our 3 dB point will now be around about 0.9 volts. So let's try the frequencies again. There we go. So, okay, we're 453.5. And then the other side. It's about right there. So we're at 460.3. That's much better there. That's about 6.8 kilohertz. I'm happy with that, except for, you know, I don't understand why we're dealing with such high voltages here to get a sinusoidal waveform. Before we go on to the next section, I'm just going to check through everything, make sure all the right components are in the right place, and I'll be right back. I checked everything. I measured all the resistance values, checked the capacitors. The transistor measured okay, so I don't know what's happening there. We are a little bit high on the output here. For some reason I've got too much gain through here somewhere. Maybe after I finish this section, before I move on to the FM stuff off camera, what I might do is go back through all the other components and make sure that everything is okay. But this section that we just installed seems to be fine. It tunes well, peaks well at 455 kilohertz, so it's, to me, it sounds like everything's okay, except for we just maybe have a little bit more gain than they expected. I can't get this down to 0.5 volts because the input then starts to fall below the transistor's ability to amplify anything. If worse comes to worse, I might maybe swap out this transistor, put another one in, but let's just continue on anyway. I expect we're going to see that extra high gain regardless of what we do at this point until I figure out what's been going wrong with it, if there's anything going wrong with it. Let's continue on with this. So we just set the RF generator at 540 kilohertz now, and then we set the dial on this to 540 kilohertz, and then we turn the power on and set the volume control to a comfortable level, turn the tuning knob, so and just L5 for peak on the oscilloscope, adjust the amplitude of the RF generator to maintain a level of 0.5 volts peak to peak. I don't think that's going to happen. After peaking L5, set the generator frequency 1600 kilohertz, turn the tuning knob clockwise to 1600 kilohertz, mark on the dial, and adjust the AM oscillator trimmer on the back of the tuning gang until you hear the 400 hertz. Okay, so the scope is kind of set up as it was before. I've got it set up to 500 millivolts per division rather than the 100 that they asked for, because I'm just not expecting this thing to settle down to 0.5 volts peak to peak. So let's turn on the power and see what we can do. I'm not going to turn up the volume too much. Should be good enough. And yeah, we're not getting a great signal out of it right now. Okay, let's just turn this. This is already turned to 540. And the oscillator, I've got my frequency generator running at 2 millivolts peak to peak. This is pretty well what we were, the minimum that we could get a decent signal at before. So, okay, there we go. We want that to look as nice as possible in this case. So how does that sound? Let's try one more millivolt going. Okay. Well, it's set up to do the 1600. And turn this knob up to 1600 kilohertz. Oh, we already got something there. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's a bit cleaner. Now we'll go back to 540. That didn't adjust it too much. Yeah, I can't make it any better than where it was, so I think we're pretty well done. We'll just check 1600 kilohertz one more time. Okay, I think we're done that. Now we're going to move on to the antenna alignment. I'll be right back for that. Okay, we're back to do the antenna alignment. So I've got the frequency generator set up for 600 kilohertz, and I have the scope set up the way we had it before. And I've got this little loop here. Now I put a 50 ohm resistor in there. I don't want it to short out my function generator. Probably going to need a little bit more amplitude to drive that, but we'll see. I've got it at 60 millivolts right now, so that might be too high. Let's put it down at 30, 20. We'll start off with 20 millivolts and go from there. And let's turn it on, and then we'll adjust the knob to 600. Oh, there we go. Maybe a little bit more amplitude. So that looks a bit better. Everything, my problem right here is all the ambient noise. Here's an example. I have a light over here. I'll turn it on. Listen. So I've got a ton of ambient noise. Okay, so we've got the magic wand now, and we'll have to see if the no increase there. Okay, what about this end? The definite decrease. So according to the instructions, that's good. That's where we need to be. We don't have any other adjustment to do. We don't have to slide this along or anything. All right, well, let's try, we'll go up to 1600 kilohertz, or 1400 kilohertz, and tune in. Here we go. Certainly seems a little nicer here. Now, see if this needs any adjustment. So now we're supposed to see if it increases or not. No, no increase with the. Okay, slight increase there. So we need to adjust the antenna capacitor on the back here. So I'm just going to put it out of your view, what I'm doing here. Okay, this is the antenna capacitor here. Just for a peek, I think we could turn down that 70 millivolts now. And we're down to 40 millivolts. Okay, sorry about getting in your way there. And we could reduce that further. So it looks like the antenna is now properly tuned. No increases there. So that looks like we're all done the AM receiver. Like I say, I'm going to take some downtime between now and next week to have a look over everything and get into the bowels of this thing to see if there's something amiss that's causing these much higher gains than expected. If you like it, hit like. If you have a question to ask, please ask me in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.